Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
It is the Savage Nation. We're talking about many things in the news. The evidence that fake news exists was exhibited on a silver platter last night when the circus freak Rachel Radcow. Yeah, Rachel Radcow is better than Mad Cow because she is a rad cow. Yeah, let's call her Rachel Radcow. She's a radical cow. Does that offend you? It's too bad. So Radcow claims that this tax return story was going to be, mind-bending, breaking news. And she reads it and he pays a higher tax rate than her own company did. Obama paid 19%. Sanders the commie paid 13%. And I don't know how they keep these people on the air. It's beyond belief when there's such a war against the entire Trump family. They are fake news. Clearly fake news. It's the tax return. I mean, what can you say about it? Did you ever expect NBC to report news accurately? The peacock lost its feathers a long time ago. Do I need to say more than Tom Brokaw used to be with NBC? Where is he today? He's teaching journalism in a junior high school somewhere in Texas, I hear. So where is NBC today? Nowhere. They've reduced themselves to having circus clowns on their network disguised as commentators. And what did they discover? What did they disclose? I mean, really big deal, A breathless disclosure about Donald Trump's tax returns. She looks just like a character from the 50s, by the way, called Arnold Stang. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? Rachel Madcow. Why does she look like Arnold Stang? No one knows who he is. Those of you who do know who he is know that she's a dead ringer for him. Trump paid a higher tax rate at 25% than the company that broadcast this circus clown, MSNBC, did 24%. Obama paid 19%, and the communist Bernie Sanders paid 13%. Donald Trump paid $38 million on $150 million in income. If this was a legitimate network, which it never has been, she would not have a job today for having done a thing like this. Even her sister network, CNBC, turned on the circus freak. Okay, that's what you do when you're desperate for ratings. You come up with a story that isn't. So where do I turn for my news? This is an interesting question. If this show is based on commentary, which is based upon, let's say, the news to some extent, and then real-life events to another extent. Oh, I have a great story to tell you. What happened last night. No, not the restaurant story. I'm not talking about it. So many things happen in my life. I don't lead a very quiet life. I try to. But, so anyway, I did the show. The book Trump's War was not on the Drudge Report. I was a little disappointed. I didn't say anything. I really go to the Drudge Report before any other site, to be frank with you. I've told you that before for my news. Everyone does. It is the number one site in the media. It's ranked number 2 in views in the media. Tops Google, Yahoo, New York Times, Washpost, BuzzFeed, and HuffPost. But the point is, I go to the Drudge Report. He has the best connections there and the best headlines. So I thought maybe the book would be up, and it wasn't. I didn't complain. I didn't send any, whiny little messages asking. I figured, it's his site. He'll do what he wants. So after the show, I needed to unwind a little bit yesterday. It's been very tense. This is like the hell week of radio when a book comes out. Shows before shows, after shows. I got in my old car, and I took Teddy, because it was like unnaturally hot out here. It's like summer yesterday and the day before. So I go to a certain place near the Golden Gate Bridge, I won't say where, to take a long walk alone, because I collect myself, my thoughts. Dog likes it. I smell the ocean air down there. I'm standing there, sitting with the dog in the car after the walk. It's really beautiful. My mind's getting clear on many things. And I hear a dog yapping next to my car. Here's Teddy barking. And a dog is whining. And an owner comes up to my window on the right side. He's an Asian gentleman with a little dog that looked like Teddy, but a little more raggedy. And he smiles at me. I said, Teddy, calm down. The guy says, his name is Teddy, so you must be... I said, yes. So he says, I'm your only gay conservative listener in Sausalito. I said, no, you're not alone. They make you think you're alone. So he and I struck up the greatest conversation. It turns out, I don't know if I'm giving anything away. He's such a nice guy. He's a member of the local Outrigger Canoe Club, and they all had their boats there. They were going to go rowing under the bridge. He invited me to come rowing with them another time and this and that. So we start to talk, through the car window. And he says to me that he lost his partner of 15 years recently, and he's, this and that. I said, that must have been terrible. It must have been hard. So he says to me, it is very hard, 15 years. He said, but there's more to the story than this. He said, I'm not giving anything away because no one knows his name. He said, my partner had a thyroid condition, and he was very depressed. Listen to what I'm saying, thyroid condition. He goes away to Las Vegas with his mother, this guy tells me, for 2 or 3 days, and leaves his dog with his partner. He comes back, his partner had hung himself. And the dog had been alone with his partner, dead in a closet for 3 days. Are you listening to this horrible story? I mean, it's a horror story. But listen to this. This is an amazing story. So he said the dog showed signs of illness after the guy died, his partner. And he took him to the vet. They did an examination. He said, Michael, take a guess what illness my dog got all of a sudden. I said, I don't know. He said, a thyroid condition. I said, I've got to tell a story on the radio tomorrow. It's as though there was some transference from your partner to the dog during those 3 long days that your partner was hanging there in the closet. I mean, this is an odd story in many ways. I understand that I'm just kind of trying to figure this out. How does a dog's 14 years old or 12, how does a dog suddenly pick up a thyroid condition that he didn't have after a guy hangs himself in front of the dog and hangs there for 3 days? I'm sorry, this is an interesting story to me. It's more interesting than Trump's war, to be frank with you. And this is what I like to do, which is, mix up the news, politics with real life 101. Because I don't know how many of you know this. I have a tremendous knack for picking up stories from people. I have since I've been a child. People trust me and they come up to me. And they tell me things that they normally wouldn't tell other people. It's not like a confessional, but I have a way of talking to people that is very real. What do you make of that story? Anyway, I don't know if you want to talk about that one, but anyone can figure that one out. How does a dog get a thing like that? So we got the mad cow story, or the cow. We're calling it a rad cow, not rad cow. Matchel rad cow. Rad cow fits her better. You heard it first on the Savage Nation. Matchel rad cow. I like that better. Names are important. You call a person a name, you never know what might happen. And you also don't know what might happen after you call that person a name in the long run. There's boomerang effects that go on and on and on, and you never know how you're going to get stung with your own words. That's the truth. That's the truth with all of this stuff. But MSNBC and NBC now are absolutely exposed for the fake newsmakers that they've always been. Need we say more? I have laid out a battle plan for victory in Trump's war. It's a phenomenal architectural plan, chapter by chapter. And I knew what would happen. I knew that Trump, even toward the end of the campaign, before the election, as we saw movement toward liberalism, I said, even if we get 50% of what he promises, that's 150% more than we would have gotten under Hillary. Then I changed it and said, if we get only 20% of what Trump promised, it's 120% more than what Hillary would have done to us or would have given us. So I'm very happy with Donald Trump as president. Don't get me wrong. I mean, please don't get me wrong. But he has a huge war against the enemies within. He has an economic war. He has a war to repeal Obamacare, which, by the way, is interesting. It's Chapter 3. Trump's war to repeal Obamacare. You want some expertise on it? It's right there, Chapter 3. Trump's war for our borders, Chapter 4. 5, culture wars. 6, restore the military. Chapter 7, Trump's war against the war machine, in which I write about the liberal warmongers, the neocons, the war profiteers. Chapter 8, Trump's war against the rhinos, the party versus the people, Republican trade traders, a wall or a fence or a virtual wall. And there are other chapters which you'll hear about in the coming days so that we never forget what he promised us, and we never forget what we demanded of him. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? As slowly we see the deck chairs being rearranged on the Titanic called the USS America, many of us will soon forget what it is we voted Donald Trump to do, what we wanted him to do. But I didn't. Trump's war is like an elephant's memory of promises and, let us say, hopes, all in one place. I have it for you. I wrote it for you. So Trump's war, his battle for America, is the issue today. And I'm talking in this book, as I promised you, that I would call for an investigation along the order of those that were done in the past from subversive organizations, because we're going to lose this country as sure as I'm standing here unless we go after the money. Always understand that nothing happens without money. When I was a young man, I didn't understand that. I couldn't understand capitalism inherently. I didn't understand it as a boy. I didn't understand how it worked. Until one day, I walked the streets of Queens, New York, and I don't know when it was. I don't know if I was even in college yet. I looked down at the pavement, and I realized, wait a minute, somebody had to pay for the pavement. Somebody had to pay for the fire hydrant that I saw in the streets of New York. I didn't quite understand how that worked. In other words, everything costs money. Well, that includes subversive organizations who are undermining this country. They need money. They run on money. How in the heck can they be out in the streets while you're working? You ask yourself. They're not. They are working. That's their job, is to riot. Their job is to riot. Their job is to shoot off their loud mouths. Their job is to strip naked and scream about fascism. Their job is to paint themselves. Their job is to... I don't understand how you don't see this. They're being funded by organizations. So who are these organizations? These are the organizations I will ask Mr. Trump to investigate, because they are the brown shirts of George Soros, in my opinion. Just as the First Amendment does not allow the government to suppress dissent, it does not sanction using violence to promote one's message. Who wrote that? Me. Trump's war. It specifically protects the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Let me read that again, if you don't mind, because I'll do it anyway. Just as the First Amendment does not allow the government to suppress dissent, all you Marvins of the ACLU, you smart boy chicks from NYU and Columbia Law, all you smart Alex who know about the First Amendment, you think you wrote it? You think your grandfather wrote the First Amendment? It does not sanction using violence to promote one's message, Marvin. It specifically protects the right of the people peaceably to assemble, Harold, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And I wrote, and yet Obama and his cohorts in the media have repeatedly characterized the domestic terrorism perpetrated by groups like Black Lives Matter as peaceful protest, even when innocent bystanders have been assaulted, shops looted, and whole neighborhoods burned to the ground. My reference is reference number 16, if you want to look it up. When liberals of all races and creeds began rioting after Trump's election, Obama did the same thing. He actually stood on foreign soil and called the riots, quote, one of the great things about our democracy, close quote, reference number 17. I'm not fabricating this. This divisive serpent had become so arrogant, so unafraid of any consequences for the damage he'd done to this nation, that he would look into the camera and say outrageous things like that, knowing and adoring media would back him up. He had the media and half the electorate so hypnotized for 8 years that I don't doubt many people have trouble distinguishing his progressive fantasies from reality. Many well-meaning people no doubt believe that what we've seen over the past few years in Ferguson, Baltimore, New York, and elsewhere has something to do with free speech or the First Amendment. It doesn't. When you write an article or a blog, appear on a television show, or even assemble peacefully in a public forum meant for that purpose, you are exercising rights the First Amendment protects. But the moment you pick up a brick and throw it through a window, or join a mob blocking an expressway, which violates someone else's rights to liberty, or especially when you commit a violent act against an innocent bystander, you are no longer exercising your First Amendment rights. You are now violating the rights of others, something the First Amendment does not allow you to do, Marvin and Harold. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE.
There's a lot of other stuff in the news. I don't even know if you want to talk about it. Is Trump getting anything done? Small $200 drone shot down with $3 million Patriot missile. Drudge Report. Wait a minute. Talk about government expense? A $200 drone was shot down with a $3 million Patriot missile. Was this training? Let me see this story. Technology. A Patriot missile, usually priced at about $3 million, was used to shoot down a small quadcopter drone, according to a U.S. general. The strike was made by U.S. allies, said General David Perkins. That quadcopter that cost $200 from Amazon did not stand a chance against the Patriot. That's really great. Well, I guess that's the military-industrial complex at work. This is the Savage Nation at work. Contractor allegedly bribed top Navy officials with wild sex parties. That just came out. That is nothing new under the sun. Isn't that the way business is done? Let's see that story. The Justice Department unsealed a new indictment Tuesday, charging a Navy admiral and 8 others with corruption and other crimes in the Fat Leonard bribery case. Military personnel are accused of taking bribes from Singapore-based defense contractor Leonard Glenn Francis of Glenn Defense Marine Asia. Lavish gifts, prostitutes, and luxury hotel stays, blah, 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 blah. Isn't that the way business has always been done? I mean, is there something new about that? While visiting Port Manila in February 2007, Francis allegedly hosted a sex party for officers at the MacArthur Suite of the Shangri-La Hotel, aptly named, where historical memorabilia related to General Douglas MacArthur were used by the participants in sexual acts. That's sick. That's sickening. I don't even want to read the rest of the story. It's not even salaciously interesting. It's kind of disgusting. Let's see what's in the news over there. They're having a vote over there. They're having a vote over there, Geert Wilders land. And I don't know if he's going to make it over there. I think the Dutch are so beaten up. You've heard of the Stockholm Syndrome. Well, after he loses, it'll be known as the Netherlands Syndrome. Because they want more Muslims to destroy their country. Good for them. That's I don't know how these things happen, how people give away their whole life like this. Trump's 05 tax rate much higher than normal, even for the very, very, very wealthy. That's true. By the way, what do you think Warren Buffett pays? Trump paid 25%. Buffett boasted he pays 15%. So why doesn't the news media report that? Because it doesn't fit their lying, fake news agenda. $38 million, a lot of tax.
Savage.
So all anyone is talking about is Macho Red Cow and her fake news. And I mean, admittedly, it shows the news for what it is, which is fake news. And what did you ever expect from Macho Red Cow? Did you ever take Macho Red Cow seriously? You know Macho Red Cow thrives on false news and fake news. So she puts out a story earlier yesterday that a historic story coming on Donald Trump's tax returns. Listen to clip 5 as Macho Red Cow built it up. Listen carefully.
These tax returns raise very interesting questions about how much the president's own proposed tax policies would improve his own personal bottom line. But they raise even more questions about what we haven't yet seen. Trump is the first president since the Watergate era to refuse to release his taxes of his own accord, which makes this release, who knows where it came from, both an interesting news development and potentially a historic one.
Yeah, historic for Macho Red Cow. Historic for you and your friends. What's historic is that NBC has no dignity left, and the peacock has lost its feathers. That's what's historic. Is that a network like Comcast can have a person like you on putting out false news and keep you on the air. That's the news, by the way. Even CNBC, a sister network, turned on you for putting out false news. It's sickening. Don't you understand that Rad Cow is now thriving on the publicity, and they think that bad publicity is good? Don't you understand it's just good for their ratings and they don't care what they do to people's lives? Savage says Republican traitors are blocking Trump. Book warns of dangers to presidency. Now, that's the biggest story. But that's not getting the traction that Rad Cow is getting. I was on the Alex Jones show yesterday. Now, people put him down. They say, oh, he's crazy, tinfoil hat, they're going to take him away in an ambulance. Meanwhile, his ratings are just booming. Booming. He's bigger than some big guys in radio, truthfully. And a lot of people follow him. I consider him to be a really good guy. So the headline on his site was Republican traitors blocking Trump on InfoWars. Ryan and McCain trying to save Obamacare from Trump. A civil war has started between patriots and neocons and government, says radio host Michael Savage. It's a civil war. Who's winning, though, is the question, Savage said on the Jones Show Tuesday. We elected the president. We allegedly own the Senate. We have the House, and we're getting nothing done. No tax cuts, not a brick laid for the wall. What's been done? The immediate threat to Trump's America First agenda is the neocon wing of the Republican Party, like Speaker Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, Savage noted. Savage said because they're obstructionists. The left wing of the Republican Party is impeding Donald Trump at every turn. Left wing of the Republican Party is the Democrat Party, Socialist Party USA. It's all one. They don't care about borders, language, or culture. All they care about is feathering their own nests and feathering the military-industrial complex with another endless war. The fake conservatives in the media should also realize that unlike Hillary Clinton, Trump actually supports the First and Second Amendment, Savage said. I can read more to you. You can link it up on InfoWars or right on the top of the Drudge Report. It's from there, and it's a great interview, incidentally. And thank you for driving Trump's war way, way up on the Amazon bestsellers list. It is in bookstores in America right now. It is the launch date was yesterday. We got a little rough start owing to the blizzard that wasn't, but I guess it kept people away from bookstores. The blizzard was the blizzard, like Trump's tax returns were going to destroy his presidency. Same thing. Fake news, fake meteorology, fake science, fake medicine, ersatz food. There used to be a word for fake. It used to be called ersatz in my day. But now no one knows what ersatz means, so we call it fake. It was known as ersatz. When was the news ever real? I knew one guy in my circle of friends who became a journalist. I do. He was a nice enough guy. I'm not putting him down, but he told me point blank that his first jobs as a so-called journalist was writing obituaries that he made up. And he made up every story he ever wrote. He said he had to meet a deadline. He'd make stories up. And that's what they published. They made stories up. Where? Only in San Francisco do you see old liberals sitting around in cafes reading a newspaper like the Chronicle. They have their finger going down the page. You ever see those guys and the old women? The myopic people. They run their finger down the line like your grandmother used to read the Bible, chapter and verse. They run the finger down. Have you ever noticed Trump's election? They read it chapter and verse like it's the gospel. It's all made up. And their whole opinion on life is based on fake news. Ersatz news. That's what it is. In Venezuela, a woman gave birth while waiting in a long supermarket ration line, Bernie Sanders and all you socialists. You get that? I guess you don't get that. South Asian men break woman's nose in anti-white race hate attack. Now, South Asian men is a convenient way of saying something else. That's how the liars in the media call Muslims in Britain. They call them South Asian men. They shouted racist comments and violently assaulted a 34-year-old white woman, a male companion, in an anti-white race hate attack in Coventry, England. When she tried to stand up to her abuser, she was struck so hard in the face that her nose and cheekbone were shattered. You see, that's what I mean by liberalism. These are the kind liberals. When they lose the argument, they go to violence. But that's the world that we live in. That's certainly and sadly the world that we live in. If you care to comment on any of these topics, you're sicker than I think you are. Two Russian spies were charged in a massive Yahoo email hacking. Now, I had a Bleeny the other day, and I guess that proves that I was talking to Russian ambassadors through the Bleeny. And I'll soon be investigated by the Department of Justice for colluding with the Russians. Watch out if you should have a Knish, because although a Knish is not really Russian in origin, it could be construed as so in the new Stalinism being conducted by the crazy people who think that everything Russian is bad. Why is it bad to talk to Russians? Can anyone explain that to me? When Obama first became president, we were getting along great with Russia. And I must remind you that Russia is our natural ally against radical Islam. In fact, as I reminded Larry King today on the radio, on the TV show that we did, and he is a liberal. I mean, he sat there and listened. I said, Larry, come on, let's be real. Obama did nothing against ISIS. He made a fake war against them. I said, it's the Russian Air Force that has ISIS on the run. They are our natural ally against radical Islam, Larry. But you can't talk to people who make their minds up. They're sure that they know things because that's the doxy. It's like a religion. Liberalism is a religion. It's also a mental disorder. And by the way, you know that for a fact because you've tried to talk to them and they won't listen to you. Well, will it be a Dutch treat? That's the question, or a We don't know. The Dutch are deciding whether to live or die. Either they vote for Geert Wilders, who has long seen the threat to the great nation that he was born in and lives in by the invasion of Muslims, or they will vote to commit suicide, and they will no longer be a people 20 years from now. Same thing here. No different here. Live or die. It's that simple. Trump's war, what do you think it's about? Now, the Republican traitors are the bigger problem. This is interesting. We know that the progs are blocking him at every turn. Schumer, of course, is an obstructionist. You'd expect that from a guy like him. That's all the Democrats do is block, 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 hate, 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 no, no, no. That you'd expect. The party of no. But when your own party blocks the president, that tells you more than you really want to know about the situation. But that's exactly what the situation entails. And I described the rhinos and the battle for America and such, and who they are. You know who they are. You think you know who they are? Yeah, you say Ryan, Paul Ryan. You say Gobbler, whatever his name is, Mitch McConnell, the Gobbler from Kentucky with the gullet. But there are many others. What can we do about it is the question. There are lots of things we can do about it. McConnell wouldn't be in power were it not for us. Paul Ryan would be running a night basketball school somewhere were it not for us. There's a lot we can do. We're still a great nation. So the interviewer today says to me, isn't America great now? I said, it's the greatest country on earth. He says, well, aren't there other countries that are great? I said, no, not as great as this country. He said, what are you saying, America right or wrong? And no, I didn't say America right or wrong. I said something else. I said, well, why are you always saying America wrong and wrong? That's all that the progressives say, America wrong and wrong. Macho Radcow, America wrong and wrong and everything. America no good. CNN, America no good. America wrong and wrong. It's not America right or wrong. But they say it's America wrong and wrong. Always wrong. And I'm sick of it. I want America back. I want America first. And Donald Trump does too. And that's why we're all fighting the same Trump's war together. Do you get it? If not, get the book. Maybe you'll get it. What's at stake? Let's look at the Trump presidency from the top. Let's put aside health care for a moment. Many people are frightened right now that his entire administration is in trouble. I am not. I am not. This is what politics is all about, especially when you have an entrenched bureaucracy and an entrenched socialist Islamist machine that refuses to go away. They're not going to leave within 60 or 90 days. We didn't expect them to. Wars take a long time. These are the initial battles of a longer war. And you have to understand that the healthcare issue, while key to it all in some ways, is not the only battle that we're facing. We've already won 2 major battles, in case you don't know it. The military morale is way up. Our national security is way up. You have to understand there are priorities to things. And as I said to you several times, and I have to say it again, even if we only wind up getting 20 or 30% of what Trump promised during the campaign, that's 120, 130% more, at least, than we would have had if Hillary Clinton had won. I'll give you 2 examples so you don't think it's just hyperbole. First Amendment. Hillary Clinton said she would eliminate talk radio and websites she doesn't like with the so-called fairness doctrine. In Germany, a neo-Nazi who calls himself a social democrat. See, the neo-Nazis today are the social democrats. You don't know that. Never forget that Hitler was the head of a socialist party called the National Socialists. Today they are called social democrats. It's one and the same. And the Social Democrat Party, so-called in Germany, one of them actually said he wants to fine anyone who has a website that provokes hate speech in any way should be fined $50 million. This is not an invention. This is fascism, pure and simple. We would have lost our freedom of speech and freedom of the press in this country had that she-witch won. We have the First Amendment for the next 4 to 8 years. Why don't you count your blessings? All you backstabbers who stabbed them for 8. You know, I love these people who stabbed them in the back for 9, 10, 11 months. They're never Trumpers. Then when he won, they suddenly they love Trump. Now that he's in trouble, they're stabbing him in the back again. Second Amendment, guns, over, not touching them. Hillary would have seized your guns one way or the other. So you have to look at the big picture. And don't expect to get everything that you want. You're not going to do it. It doesn't occur in your life. It doesn't occur in a political campaign. It doesn't occur in a political administration. We are way, way ahead of where we would have been had she seized power. Do you understand that? But now the battle has just begun. The illiberal fascist left is on the warpath. They are beating people up with sticks and fists on the front lines of this fight. The time will come when they're going to face real men very soon. And then you're going to see something you don't want to ever see in this country. I'm not advocating it. I'm predicting it. Right. So the radical left lost. We won. And they started acting like though they can overturn the election. Every television show, every newspaper, around-the-clock anti-Trump hatred. It's nauseating. So here with my little radio show, I do the best I can. My assistant just said something interesting to me. He said, you know, I think I know why you're feeling differently about Trump's war. I said, why? He said, because it's a victory lap. It's not like your other books where you were fighting an uphill battle against the illiberal machine, which is in control. You won. Your message won. And you're taking a victory lap. You're trying to get the people engaged. But the thing is, your energy's up because you don't feel like you're losing. You're winning. I said, maybe you're right. He said, America loves a winner. I feel like I'm on top of the world. I did win. My ideas have won. So just think about that. You are a winner right now. All you listeners, you actually won. They lost. Okay? So take a deep breath on that one. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
What do you want to talk about? Let's stop with the cancer and the leukemia and the transfer death. I'm getting all the depressives. I'm getting a little dark. Horrible calls now. Terrible. Just horrible now. My mother died of this and my dog died of that. Don't ask what you can get. Can we have some fun today? Something nice? It's already Wednesday of Hell Week. It's going to be over. I can't wait to play the tape for you of the Larry King, and I had so much. I keep going on and on about him. And he has an unknown show on Aura Television, on RT Television. So I joked that he's a liberal. So during the interview today, I said, Larry, you're asking me about, what if Russia hacked our election? You like that, Savage? I said, Larry, wait a minute. I ate a Blintz last week. Does that mean I'm a Russian spy? So he has a sense of humor. Okay, at least he can laugh. He had a good sense of humor. He owns a bagel store in Beverly Hills. He invited me to have a bagel with him. That's great. I said, why don't you open a bagel store in Romania? He said, that's anti-Semitic. I said, cut it out. He and I we have quite a rapport. We never met. The guy's 83 years old and he's still out there like a trooper. He's an inspiration to me. So I said to him, listen, hey, Larry, in Trump's war, I called for a way to save, Trump care. He said, what's that? I said, high-risk pools for high-risk individuals. He said, what do you mean by that? I said, Larry, come on, look at you. You're a guy 83 years old. You're fit. I can see you work out. I see you watch what you eat. Why should you pay the same premium as a junkie who abuses herself? Why should you pay this? He says, well, aren't they entitled to care? I said, no, I'm not so sure they are. I think they're entitled to a minimal amount of care, not a gold-plated kiss my behind care. Every minute, how are you today, Mary? Did you have your drug, Mary? It doesn't work. Mary doesn't work. All she does is score drugs. How are you? Gold-plated care. Who pays for this? What sane society on earth takes care of people who are trying to kill themselves? You want me to talk about cops who have to deal with suicide types and when a cop has to risk his life to save them? You ever think what cops have to go through to save people who want to die jumping off a bridge? What, is a cop supposed to give his life for some lunatic? I'm not so sure. I'm a little on the Ayn Rand thing here, They want to go, let them jump. That's all. Stop with the hand-holding. Not everybody, not everyone's entitled to gold-plated health care. So he says to me, well, what about if someone's walking across the street and gets hit by a car? I said, anyone who's hit by a car goes into an emergency room. That's a given. I'm talking about high-risk pools for high-risk individuals and high-risk professions. Pay higher premiums. No, he says, the government should pay for everybody's free health care. I said, Larry, stop already. Who's going to pay for that? They have the answers. See, they have the statements but no answers. They don't follow through on the thinking. And the beautiful part is a lot of these people are really well-intentioned, nice people. They mean well. But the road to you-nowhere is paved with good intentions.
Savage.